Welcome back. Now, let me come back to you, Nii, to get some reactions on your tech company, which is designed to record either attacks or development in communities. What would you say your company has recorded so far in terms of these attacks?
Last year alone to this year, we've been able to track well over 300 to 350 data sets around these issues. And one way or the other, we have, I think we have about 95 to 96% accuracies because we've been able to sort of cross-check this particular data sets. And from the pattern that we understood, that we gathered, there are sensitive issues to around this thing that I probably can't see on board. You understand? But looking at, I wouldn't say I know a lot about the culture, the Fulani culture. I'm deep ground rooted in it. I wouldn't say that yet. But coming back from the perspective that we all see them and the attributions that we all have about them, moving cattle around, moving, how will I put it, grazing and a whole lot of other things and trends and co. We've been able to track points of attacks in all these areas, and at the same time, we've been able to sort of gather incidences around that. Victims, number of victims, some are estimates anyway, number of victims, how will I even put it, frequency of attacks, and a whole lot of other indicators to that are attached. And we keep on doing that. And the next phase of our work around that, for example, when we went to your state, the next phase of our work that I've been in discussion with a few friends is because we couldn't go to all these farms. Fine, I'm not meant to say this, but I'll say it. We couldn't go to all the farms. We're working out a drone technology now that at least from specific points in the likes of Basi, then going to Aguare and some other places, from specific points, we can actually work with rural communities to send drones to the deeper parts of these farms at the periods that these people know that, okay, fine, they could be grazing, to really track these issues and collect our video footages. So that is what we're working on now, that, like the next phase. So the success of this particular model in Okiogun, part of Oyo State, is what will now replicate in other parts of the country, based on funding, of course, but at least we've been able to raise some funds for this particular project in Oyo State, Okiogun, which is basically the pilot. So what we're working on now is we're trying to deploy drones to really track these guys in Okiogun. We'll track them, we'll collect data sets, information, and at the same time, we're able to strengthen our position in this agitation. Basically, looking back, for example, I grew up too in Oyo State, Obomoshiro. I grew up in Okiogun. I've lived in Ishaya before. So these are places that are dominated, at least to an extent, by Fulani herdsmen. You understand? So talking about the tolerance, I know that for the Fulani herdsmen to be in these areas and settle in these areas for decades, we're very tolerant, you understand? And growing up too, I know we hired a couple of security men that are Fulani. You get, so that's another cultural engagement around here. They usually sort of guard homes a lot here. But one thing I want Mr. Mukhtar to understand is there's economic development. Things will change. There's rapid urbanization. I will like put it, fine, we're civilized, but at the same time, it doesn't stop. You get, so one way or the other, there's a revolution or there's a change in culture, which I think the Fulani herdsmen to have to adapt to. You understand? So Lagos is a mega city, for Christ's sake, and from my experience working with a Lagos state agency, I know they are planned to sort of establish that particular model that engages about 14-year-olds and some other things. So you can't expect a mega city in the making to keep experiencing what it was experiencing 20, 25 years ago. That's one point. Then I don't want to bring in the political angle that has to do with the presidency or some other things. But from our research, I think having militias is something that is quite common to different tribes, different culture. We have OPC for the Yoruba people. When you go to the east, we have the likes of Misakaba, lots and lots of, you understand. So technically, too, you should expect that the Fulani herdsmen too will have their own militia group, which is basically underreported in the news.
I think it's interesting that Nii said Fulani herdsmen or Fulani militia, and then he went on to say no one knows who they are, what they are, and so on and so forth. The truth of the matter is everything he said about that is pure speculation. There is no empirical evidence whatsoever to indicate there is a Fulani militia. And if you think about Fulani herdsmen go as far west as Gambia and Senegal, go as far north as Egypt. and go as far south as Central Africa. And yet, and still, why is it that the only place where you see these things happening happen to be in areas where we know there is a presence of insurgents from Boko Haram? So, you know, it's in my opinion, labeling them Fulani herdsmen is a scare tactic, because at the end of the day, majority of Fulani herdsmen are peaceful people. If you don't mess with them and you don't mess with their cattle, they don't come looking for you. They don't come kill you. They don't wipe out your whole community in the night with assault weapons, rocket-propelled grenades, and what have you. In quite a few places where we've had clashes, there have been historical conflicts between herdsmen and indigenous communities. However, I think in this present time, because of the political undertones, where it's perceived the head of the administration, which is President Buhari, is, for lack of a better term, ambivalent about tackling the Fulani herdsman crisis. A lot of people are quick to allude that every clash, every situation is by Fulani herdsmen. For the, you know, even like the Agato crisis, from everything that is available, the crisis or the clashes there have been happening for many years. It's not a new 2015 or 2016 development. It's been going on for years. But now, because the term Fulani herdsman is bandied everywhere, people's reticular activators are working, and every time anything happens, everybody's attention immediately goes to the Fulani herdsman. But having said that, like I said earlier, even if there are Fulani herdsmen who are engaged in clashes, a lot of what's going on now, which is the arms being utilized, the strategy being utilized, and the agenda of blatant genocide, shows there is more to it than meets the eye.
All right, how has these attacks affected food security in the country?
It's creating a lot of, it's causing havoc. At the same time, too, there's this pressure on food security. For example, when we went to the Okiogun part of Oyo State, getting onto Ishenyi, I realized that a whole lot of food produce that we all sort of transport down from Jos and Co. is being produced in this area, from watermelon to Irish potato to sweet potato to cucumber, a lot of things, to in large quantity. But the funny thing is, there was a surge in this production about 2 years ago, that the farmers realized that they could produce a lot of things that were brought down from the north. But interestingly, based on this increase in attack or surge in attacks, there's a massive decline again you get in this produce, because these farmers can't farm. So they will go back to depending on what we get from the north, basically. So these are the pressures. There's pressure on food security in this part. I can confidently say that. There's increase in that. There's potentials for that pressure too in the southeast, because I know that there's surge in attacks too in the southeast, which is technically getting out of hand. We've seen Enugu and some other areas. So,
all right, just hold your thoughts for a minute again. We'll take a quick break. I'll be back shortly. Join us again.